Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of Gun Guy Radio is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to episode 225 of Gun Guy Radio. This is a podcast that shines a positive light on the firearms lifestyle. I'm your host, Chick Challen, with co-host Zach Carlson. This is your weekly dose of positive firearms talk without the politics. Hey, Zach, what's up?
Hey, this is weekly. I think is this like the fourth one in a row now?
It's more consistent than anything else I do.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that we're here coming at them consistently. I know how frustrating it is with podcasts. I listened to that Kevin Burningham's podcast, the Q podcast, the Q and Ask podcast from the company Q, and he'll like do one every day for a week, and then it'll be like 2 months between them. And I sent a message like, "When's the next podcast?" I've already caught up, and he just sent me one of those little emojis with the hands up, like, "Oh."
Sounds very ADHD or something.
Yeah, well, I guess he's running a big company and making lots of money. He probably doesn't have a lot of time for podcasts, but
so what'd you do this? Well, speaking of tech, what about the new Tesla pickup truck? Is that something that gun guys are going to buy?
Yeah, I think people are going to worry more about the EMPs with that vehicle, and like, can they have? Is there Tesla superchargers on their way to their bug out locations?
Well, I mean, you got to load that bed up with batteries. That's the trick.
Well, where are you going to put the recoilless rifle if you have batteries in the bed?
I know. If they made that thing a technical, then it would sell like hotcakes, right?
Yeah, I would think so. It looks goofy to me, but I'm sure it'll be cool. I'd be curious to see one on the street, I guess.
Well, I'd like to see like people take it mudding and like off-roading and like real abuse or like pull like really heavy loads with it. I just don't see how that's going to work out. I don't know.
I did see something about how it was actually in an off-road group on Facebook that they said that it actually, in theory, would be awesome off-road because all the low-end torque of the electric motors versus a gas one, and you wouldn't have the jostling left and right, that makes all the fluids in a ICE engine be negative, and like it could run at all weird angles and not be an issue. But like, who's going to take their brand new Tesla out on the track and then or out on the trails and scratch its DeLorean body? Oh,
so if I flip it upside down, it won't hurt anything because there's not like a traditional engine where the oil runs to the wrong side.
Well, in theory, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't even have axles that have fluid in them, right? And in theory, I don't know. I didn't get a look at the axle situation, but doesn't it? I would assume it has more ground clearance because it doesn't have a traditional pumpkin hanging underneath, right?
Probably doesn't have a traditional axle at all. It's probably independent with nothing in between it. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think so.
So, what'd you do in guns this week?
Oh, I thought we were doing the off-road podcast. Sorry. We talked about last week about safe organization and the Secure tactical setup I put in my safe. I've been liking it a lot. I had ordered some bins, those like kind of acro style bins, and ironically when they showed up they were the Durham brand ones, that the link that you put in for all those cabinets that you linked to last week.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same brand bin kit, so I'm assuming that stuff's the same. I got the bins and I bought some shelves and stuff like that, and I've just kind of been playing with different configurations, trying to see if I want to store ammo cans in the safe with accessories and ammo, or just leave the guns and move all the other stuff outside the safe. And I think I'm going to go outside the safe because it gets a little cluttered looking when you get all that stuff in there.
Yeah, so you've got plenty of like standard cabinets, don't you, for other stuff?
Oh yeah, I've got tons of space everywhere. It's just a matter of how I want it to look.
Well, let's see here. Excuse my levels. I have new equipment this week, trying to get everything dialed in.
So basically, Jake has spent more money on audio equipment than he has in guns for the longest time.
Probably about even, not more. It could be more. It's only because I bought this mixer like 12 times and sold it and rebought it, so that's part of the problem.
Don't get me started on rebuying stuff that you sell. I'll never need that again. Sell that. And then, whoops. Yeah. Remember that thing I sold?
So did I do more in guns this week than you? I had more tactical experience, I think.
If you pull the trigger, you've done more than me this week. Did you pull the trigger?
Wow, holy crap. Yes, I pulled the trigger. I used the Olight Warrior X tactical flashlight. I mean, that makes me tactical right there. With my Ruger 10.
The Olight Warrior X or Warrior 10? Now Apple's got us all confused.
I hate you. It's, yeah. So use that along with Ruger 1022 to terminate a possum. That's right. There was a giant possum in the barn that we keep our cats in, so I had to take care of him.
You have a cat barn?
Pretty much have a cat barn. It's ridiculous. We started out with 2, and now we've got, I don't even know what we have. We added like 8 or 10 more, and then like most of them are
10 more? Like you have a dozen cats?
We're approaching a dozen, I think. And like most of them are females, so by this time next year we're going to have like 800 cats.
Oh, that'll be swell. Do you feed them and everything, or you just let them eat them nice?
Well, yeah, right now. I mean, that's why I can't buy guns. I'm feeding 1,000 cats.
You're a crazy cat lady.
So, yeah, it was, yeah.
So are you sure it was a possum or not just a hairless cat?
It was definitely a possum. I disposed of his corpse this morning. Well, it was funny. I shot him pitch black last night and holding the light in one hand, and so this 1022 I have, it's a full length 1022 with it's got like a cheaper Nikon on it or something, or a scope on it. So like if I didn't have a flashlight this bright, there's no way I was going to be able to see this thing. But because I had a way too bright of a flashlight, I could look through the scope and actually see it in pitch black. But holding,
how far were you?
What?
How far were you from it?
Oh, like 500 yards, I think. No.
Yeah.
No, it was like, I don't know, 20 feet away or something. So I had to back out the adjustment on the optic. And, but yeah, holding that one-handed with the flashlight in the other, and I got it done. It wasn't pretty, but.
How many shots did it take?
Oh, I didn't count.
Did you run out of ammo in the magazine?
Did not run out of ammo.
Okay.
I had only 10 rounds, and do I need to get here's the magazine. See how many I got left. Oh.
Wait, in a lethal encounter, you're supposed to count your shots, aren't you? So you know when you're out of ammo and need to reload?
4, 5. I shot 5 times. There's 5 left.
Wow. So was this a dynamic critical incident?
Sure.
So
well, I shot him once, and he looked at me stunned. I'm like, did I hit him? And then I just shot him. I must have been 4 other times right in a row, and then he fell over on his back, and then I went over and saw he stopped breathing. But then this morning I woke up, I'm like, oh no, was he playing possum? So I was half expecting to get out there and not find a possum.
Well, I'm wondering if your cats would have eaten him. I'm surprised your cats didn't go all cannibal on him.
He was giant. He's big as a dog. I mean,
well, you have a dozen cats. They need to feed like a.
You know what? They've been catching my rabbits and eating them. I'm finding like rabbit ears and stuff. I'm like, what is going on here?
Oh, I heard those are good luck.
No, it's feet, right? Rabbit feet.
Who'd want a foot? That's gross. Okay, so you actually took a life this week. Wow.
Again.
Good for you.
Call me killer. So other things in guns, listeners suggested these fixes for my flying Hollow Sun from last episode, where I had that fly off my Glock slide and hit me in the head. Oh, did I have the wrong model in there, Zach?
Yeah, that's all right.
Anyways.
I clicked on one, and I don't get what the difference is on the Trijicon part number. That looks just like the screws to me, but it looks like a sealing plate. Yeah, it includes a sealing plate, short mounting screws, along with a proper size hex head. So that's the thing is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but like a Trijicon RMR comes with really long screws. And it's because that's when you're threading it into a sight riser for like an AR or something like that, or their dovetail mounts. They want all that thread engagement to be a nice tight fit. But especially in a Glock, I can't speak for every single pistol, that when you mill it into the slide, you can't use those long screws because on the shooter's right position, it will, if you keep going, it'll actually pierce into the extractor depressor plunger that runs along the side of that slide to put pressure on the extractor. Okay. And then you'll pinch it, and then suddenly your extraction and ejection won't be happening properly, and you'll be wondering why. That's why you got to shorten those screws. So, but with an MOS plate, it should be not too bad. But with a milled slide, that's what
this Trigicon part number from Brownell, so it's not just the screws. It's got a thin plate, which I guess you use in conjunction with the other plates you're using to give you a little more thickness.
Well, that's a sealing plate too. So like on the sealing plates were really needed on the old Type 1 RMRs, where the battery, under recoil, the battery would separate from the body of the RMR, and then you get that flicker, and that is really annoying. But they fixed that pretty much on the Type 2s, where you don't necessarily need the sealing plate. I believe it also gave you more waterproofness because it made a rubber seal on the whole bottom of the outkick. But that was more important with Type 1s. I'm not sure how important that is anymore on the Type 2s. But they put a bunch of those Type 1s on sale. When you used to see those RMRs for sale for like $400, that was the Type 1s that they were clearancing out. But this other link that you put in there, this is from, I've never heard of this company, CH Precision Weapons. They have a RMR plate, and that is kind of interesting. You kind of see that on other places, and this plate, it's $65 though. It seems like a lot of money for a little metal plate, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a lot.
They're billing it as just an adapter plate for the MOS. So essentially, Glock gave you an adapter plate, and then you got to pay another $65 to replace that plate with this plate. And what they're saying is that you get 7 thread engagements versus 1.5 to 3 with other plates. And you see how they're achieving that is they essentially, where the screw holes are, instead of just going into the thickness of the plate, they are building little tubes that are threaded that kind of go up into the receiver holes on the optic, and then you get more engagement there. But it still only attaches to the thickness of the base plate. I have seen some aftermarket slides that were cut like that, and after time and on and off, that they've broken the seam right there. So like right where that tube affixes to the flatness of the plate, they broke that joint. So I'm not saying they're all like that, but I have seen that happen before. And then they're using that as another locating pin too. So you get 4 locating pins versus just the.
Well, that's the biggest plus of this I see is you get all 4 locating pins, which with the MOS plates, you can only get 2 on any of the plates. So.
Yep. And, people ask, like, why don't we put the pins on there? And, we cut them. There's a curvature built into those, at least on the front. And we've never had one go off side to side or anything like that. Like most of them for us, you can put the optic on there, don't even put screws on there, and tip it upside down and it won't fall out. Like it's that tight. So maybe the MOS type plates are a little bit looser than that, but we've not really had issues with that other than that.
Well, in case you're having the same issue I am, there's links in the show notes for both of these. And then another thing I did in guns, holy crap, I'm on a roll. I ordered a heavy-duty steel welded 12-gauge cabinet. I was looking at the tactical cabinets with the 2 different companies we talked about last week. What were those companies? I can't think.
Secure Tactical and Gallotech and...
Yeah. So I was looking at cabinets from both of their offerings, and they're pretty impressive. They, especially their heavier-duty ones, the 12-gauge ones. I don't know that I'd really look at their lighter gauge ones because just the money for value, I just don't see that with like a 16 gauge or something that's starting to get pretty thin. But then I started looking at regular, cabinets, and like these are so much bigger than any of these tactical places offer, and they're about half the price of their bigger ones. So this is a 24-inch deep by 48-inch wide by 78-inch high, and that includes 8 shelves and 84 bins. And so it's got the
84 bins. That's the crazy part right there.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them are their big, expensive bins too, or medium-sized bins, I guess. And then it's got the coolest thing I think about this. It's got the louvered adapters, not only on the whole back of the cabinet, but also both doors. And then it's got 6 door louvered attachment shelves included as well. And it dropped in price from when I started looking at it. So it's about $1,000 even on Amazon with free Prime shipping. So everywhere else you buy this cabinet or even the tactical cabinets, you're going to be paying, at least a couple $100 for delivery. And this is free delivery. I just couldn't pass that up.
I think this would look really cool if you could build it into the wall and make it like a flush mounted thing.
Yeah. No, that's not going to be my scenario. Oh, so I didn't talk about this before, but another concern of mine is the corner it's going behind me. I have a wood stove that's rather close to it. And so my concern with the fire safes was that, if the stove gets too hot, does the expanding foam or anything like that in the safes, like some of those have foam that activates around the seals and stuff, like
flag.
Yeah, is my safe going to foam shut? So I don't have to worry about that with this.
That's true. You might have to worry about everything burning on the inside because it has the louvers in it, so you probably have hot air going into it, but it'll keep everything from rusting.
Well, I'm within the appropriate distance from the stove. It's not like I'm, putting this right up against the stove. And I also have those fireproof wall panels. I have extras of those that I can put on the side of this as extra protection if I feel that the contents are getting too hot. I mean, I have a stack on safe on the other side of this, which is about the same distance. And when I got the stove really fired up, really going good, I can put my hand on that stack on and it'll feel just like a little bit, warmer than like everything else in the room, but it's not like hot to the touch or anything.
Yeah. So it says it usually ships within 1 to 2 weeks. So it'll probably be a couple episodes before you get it and have it installed.
Yeah. It won't have it right away, but I'm excited to, see how it goes with it. I like that has, with the bottom, it's essentially going to have 3 full-size shelves, which will be handy for, storing stuff. And then I think I'll be able to keep those and still have plenty of room for, long rifles on top of it even, because it's 78 inches high. I mean, that's higher than most any safes or gun cabinets.
Do they count the foot height there? Because it looks like it's made to be able to slip a pallet jack underneath it and move the whole thing around.
Yeah, which I like that too. I don't know. I'll know when I get it. But I like that it's up on feet as well, because all the gun safes and cabinets, they're all on the floor. It all makes the bottom shelf or the bottom of it super low, which is annoying as well. And the shelves on this will allow me to lift up, how high I put the rifles in this too. So I think it's, I don't know. I'll let you guys know how it actually turns out. I'm pretty optimistic.
Have you figured out how you're going to actually, what are you going to use for barrel rests or any of that stuff yet?
No idea. I might try some of the Secure single stack or single wide ones or double wide ones, see if I can make it work or see.
They should fit. Yeah, those single ones should fit. Yeah,
I don't see why they wouldn't. I'm going to see. I don't know. I've got all these bins to play around with. Maybe I can cut some of them up.
I mean, you really could. You could just do a semicircle cut in it and just make like a plastic cradle, basically. You may need to make some sort of way to screw it to the wall, because when that rifle gets pushed against it, it's going to want to pop that lip up. That's like the ones for Secure It. They have a set screw that you screw in that will catch the louver above it, so it can't be pushed up and off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll let you guys know. It's going to be fun to figure out. I'll actually have a place.
You only have one rifle, so it'll be easy to figure out.
Yeah. I've got more than one rifle, Zach.
Okay, 2 is barely more than one.
Hey, quit jumping up the numbers on me, Zach. All right. So, and then we have a prepper corner. So
you have a prepper corner.
Prepper crap is more like it. So I had a 1-year supply.
Is it possum stew recipes?
Oh, I thought of that. Possum. I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't want to go into that. I could have made it a learning experience for the kids, I suppose.
Biology experiment.
So anyways, I was up in my storage area looking for some cables and stuff, and I moved this box. It's not Mountain House. It's one of the competitors, but it's like a 1-year supply for one person. It's a 1-year supply of food in this box, and it's probably about, I don't know, 24 inches by 18 by 6 or something in size. So it's,
well, that's not very big.
Yeah, it's not very big, and it's supposed to have 1-year supply of food for one person. And I actually got this last year at a Black Friday sale. I think it was Home Depot had these. They were like $100 off or something crazy like that. I ordered enough for everyone in the family to have one box, and then they only sent me one. It's like they sold too many of them, and then they only fulfilled like a percentage of the orders or something, which was really really stupid.
Might have like a Hunger Games situation if it ever comes down to it.
That's right. So, sweetie, if you can come through me, you can eat.
As you twiddle your knife in your hand. So one box. You have one box for one person 1 year. All right.
And I pick it up to move it, and like all this crap falls out of the bottom of it, like rolled oats and stuff, and like all this black stuff, like it might have been coffee or something. And like I start looking at it, and it's got like hand holders on it, where it punches in the side of the box. So I think mice climbed in there and then ate up everything inside. So I had to take that out and throw it on the burn pit. Now I got a bunch of stuff to vacuum up too. A bunch of crap fell out of it. But I'm like, that's something, I've only had that a year. It's not like it expired, but that's something that I wonder how often that happens to preppers' stashes too. You get mice or rodents into them. And I think as long as you put it in something that's airtight, you're probably pretty good to go. But I've had mice chew through 5/8 plywood. I've had mice chew through like really thick plastic, and they'll just gnaw through almost anything except for.
So even like a Rubbermaid tub wouldn't be good enough then?
Well, I'm thinking if it was something like that, it would seal out the smell, and they wouldn't know it was there, and then they wouldn't have the motivation to eat through it. But they could eat through a Rubbermaid tub, no problem, if they wanted to.
So what did this Mountain House or similar stuff, what did it look like? Was it in like those, like Mountain House comes in like those, I'm thinking they're like the freeze dried things. Maybe it's not that. It's not like the Mylar bags, whatever that you rip open. It wasn't those?
Yeah, similar to that. Yep.
And they ate through all that because that should have been sealed enough where you couldn't smell it anyways, right?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. But they could. So who knows?
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if, listeners can email if they got rodent proof ideas.
So are you just hoping now that there's a Black Friday deal coming up next week to buy more stuff?
I got so many other things to buy. I mean, I did stock up on, like, I've got 20 or 40 pounds of rice and some beans, so I do have some stocks in the kitchen. Actually, we got quite a bit of cabinetry in the kitchen, so.
Good Lord, 40 pounds of rice and beans. I think I just off myself just so I don't have to eat any more rice and beans after about a week.
So Patriot Patch Company helps make this episode possible. That's right, Patriot Patch. You can check out the Patch of the Month Club. We just announced December's awesome patch. Santa, he knows when you're awake patch. Only at Patch of the Month Club at patriotpatch.co. Check it out. One unique exclusive patch mailed to your mailbox each month with an artwork card and sticker. patriotpatch.co. All right, let's get into the main topic, how we buy and sell guns. We're not going to really talk about how to buy and sell guns. We're going to talk a little bit about how we do it. Maybe some.
Yeah, which may not be the right way.
Yeah. This is not legal advice. Please consult your own attorney, state, local, federal laws.
Yeah, and definitely. This is just kind of what we've done in the past, and I make no claims about if it is right or not. But this is actually a listener request, right?
Yeah, actually, one of the guys from the Off-Road Podcast, Aaron, he shot me an email with a suggestion. So we didn't have anything other ideas. So here we go.
Way to really sell it.
I mean, thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Well, you've only bought a couple guns in your life, so how many have you actually sold?
More than I wish I would have. I've sold.
Yeah, that's the truth right there.
My first real handgun I fell in love with was my XDM in 9mm. I wish I never sold that. And then one of my favorite shotguns was one of the older Remington 870s. It was a police trade-in, but it was a Marine finish version. And that was a great little, home defense gun, and I miss that one as well.
Do you have any that you sold that you don't miss?
My Jennings? Yeah.
You had a Jennings?
Yeah, maybe.
Did you buy it legally?
Yes.
Did you buy it as a throwaway gun in case you had to shoot somebody that was looking a little suspect?
I did a show on it, an interview on it back in the day.
What, with somebody from Jennings?
Of course.
They're still around?
Maybe it was on Jennings. Am I saying the wrong thing?
I thought that was a Saturday Night Special gun that they don't make anymore. Maybe, are you thinking of High Point or SCCY or any other new era?
SCCY, that's another one. Thank goodness. Good riddance. I do not miss the SCCY.
I saw them on the Black Friday list for this year, $125 after mail-in rebate. And I remember a guy at work who bought one years ago when they first came out, and this is before they did the different generations of it, and he was super excited about it, and I kind of pulled the trigger a few times and played with it a little bit, and it's one of those ones you just kind of have to smile, nod, and hand back. You're oh yeah, I'm sure good for you. Hey, I'm trying not to be a snob about it kind of thing, but wouldn't be really for me.
So it was the Jimenez is what it was, the JA9.
Oh, they're still around?
I think you were actually on this episode.
Was I?
But I think
years ago.
I think I did the interview solo, but yeah, I think you were actually on this episode because it says
That's
Zach
funny.
in it.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, I always look at those ATF reports you ever see the ATF reports that they put out and how many, what companies, how many guns they produce for the year and all that. Yeah. And I always look for those little Saturday Night Special guns. And if you see a company name that you have no idea who it is, but you see a large number, Google that name, and it's usually the name of some company that you never really heard of, but then they sell it under a different name kind of thing. And you see a lot of those like that, but that is not the topic at hand. The topic at hand is how to sell a gun. And the questions were brought up about how to sell one, what to price it at, how to do the trade value, what to include. Do you sell it as a package? If you have optics holsters, sell them separately, where to list it, how to make your listing stand out, all these types of things. So let's just kind of go through it unless you want to go in a different order.
Sounds good to me.
I'll just kind of take it just as we go, how to sell one. I've done it a lot of ways. When I moved out here to Idaho, there was a website called Spokane Gun Trader, because we're right on the border, so a lot of that. It was just a typical old school forum, what was that, BB bulletin boards or whatever. Yeah. One of those, and I just had it by category, and you could post up pictures, and you had to use the image hosting services and link the photos in, and you just put it out there, and you'd get an IM or an email, and you'd set up the time to meet somebody. And I never really was big on people coming to my house. Just kind of weirded me out a little bit. And also most of the buyers that I had met, since I wasn't in the metro area, always were 45 minutes away. So I would meet them somewhere. And I can't tell you how many guns I sold in the parking lot of Cabela's, or Walmart. And I remember going there. I had 2 or 3 rifles for sale, 2 ARs, and the guy didn't know which one he wanted to buy. So, I had I felt like a Lord of War type situation where I had them all in the back seat and be oh, take your choice, take a look, help yourself. You could play with them and see what you want, and then we'll work out a deal. And always awkward. But I never met anybody. That's kind of weird. And that was one of the questions is what if they're sketchy? What do you do if you go to meet somebody and the person seems pretty sketchy? Did you ever have that happen?
Did he ask you to bring the gun or Rambo?
No, he said, you don't check IDs, right? No, and I always saw those weird, like, when I first moved and I started selling guns, I always thought it was a little weird, and I didn't really know the laws when I moved out here. So, like, I did bills of sale with guns before and stuff, and to me, it ended up being not worth it, but how did you do your first ones?
Well, I think I've only done one person to person, and that's before they closed the gun show loophole in Illinois. So you can't do that anymore in Illinois. But back in the day, you could, like any other state. I think I took a picture of his Floyd, and we did a bill of sale.
Huh. So wait, what is the process nowadays?
You have to take it to an FFL and pay for a transfer.
Okay, so that's what Washington recently did a few years ago. Was it the I-509 or whatever? They passed the initiative, and so yeah, that same thing happened here in Washington, where it used to be you could just do private party transfers, no big deal, and then they switched over to doing you have to go through an FFL, and they intake it, and then they do the paperwork, and then the other person takes it from them.
Well, I take that back. So I did sell other ones on like Gunbroker, but in that scenario they were out of state, so it was going to another FFL. So
gotcha. And did you have your FFL ship that, or did you just ship it right to their FFL?
I can't remember. I think I had my FFL do it because I just didn't want to deal with it. And
yeah, and that's a lot of people do that even though you don't need to, but they feel more comfortable, and that works too.
Yeah, well, I gotta say, I was super uncomfortable every time I did it. Like the person in person, that was super uncomfortable, and even the gunbroker stuff. I just, I mean, I might do that again, but I think I'd rather just sell it outright to a gun dealer or do consignment at a dealer at this point.
What made you uncomfortable about the gunbroker situation, though?
Well, I mean, there was a whole thing. It's a different state. Am I doing this right? And so I think that's a big reason why I just had my FFL do it, even though I didn't have to in that scenario. I just super paranoid I'm going to screw something up and end up in jail, lose all my gun rights. All those worst case scenarios come to mind.
That's you're letting them win, Jake, when you think that.
I know. All I need is a Constitution, is my permit. Yeah.
Yeah, I've it's always kind of weird too because when we were right on the border, Idaho, you could have always done private party transfers, but you couldn't go across state lines. Like I couldn't, as an Idaho resident, I couldn't sell to a Washington resident, and it was always kind of awkward getting through those formalities. Like you're an Idaho resident, right? Let me see your driver's license and stuff like that. But I never really met anybody that I didn't feel comfortable with. Like being in North Idaho, you kind of expect them to be like, "Hey, you want to come to join the militia?" That kind of thing. But it didn't. Never. I don't know. It's like when people say, "Oh, why don't gay guys hit on me?" It's like, well, maybe you're not pretty enough. Like I felt like one of those things. Like, well, man, am I not good enough for the militia? Like what's going on here? But I never really had a problem with it.
They were like, lay off. I'm not in a militia. And you're like, I know you are.
But what ended up happening, kind of a series of events, is when you work in the industry, and especially if you work for a gun store or some company that has an FFL and a bunch of distributor accounts, and especially if you're a single guy with nobody to hold accountable to, you start buying guns. You start buying a lot of guns. And so for a long time there, for a few years, I was just buying anything that I thought was cool. Never laid hands on one or anything, just saw, pictures and think, oh, I want that. And then you get it and you're like, oh, not what I thought it was going to be. And so I sold a ton of guns. The problem with that is I had a 4473 filled out that I took the gun, but I didn't have any paperwork proving that I sold the gun to somebody. And so when the ATF did their audit at our office, they saw all these 4473s and they say, hey, who is this Zach Carlson guy? And why does he have so many guns? And it was brought up swiftly after that if you sell a gun that you had bought through the company, that you need to go through an FFL, just so there's another paper trail that you actually sold it legitimately. Because the optics of the situation were, hey, this guy's buying guns at a discount through a distributor and then selling them on the private market for profit, or just, just anybody that didn't have to go through a FFL. So it kind of it could be construed as, selling without a license, which I wasn't doing. I was literally buying them all for my personal self, but I don't want to have to explain that to anybody and try to convince them of that fact. So
when the ATF cornered you about it, where you're like, I'm sick. I'm a sick man.
Yeah. Look at my bank account. No, I mean, I never bought guns that people like wanted or anything like that. Nobody ever said like, hey, I need this gun. Can you go get it kind of thing. It was just, I always wanted something, or I'd try something and just see if I liked it. And it's kind of like that 224 Valkyrie we were talking about the other episode. Like, yeah, it seems like a cool idea. Let's do it. And then you're like, oh yeah, what do I want this for? But I sold a ton of guns on the Spokane Gun Trader. That was just a forum. You used to be able to do it kind of on Facebook, but I never really found Facebook to be a good option for it. I used to try to put stuff on Craigslist, like not guns, but like even the accessories and stuff. And man, they would get flagged so quickly, even though technically it's just like a sporting goods type thing. But yeah, that didn't go very good. But I used to try to sell stuff to dealers, but I never felt like I was getting a good deal at a dealer. Like they seem to always prey on your perceived neediness to sell it. Like a lot of these guns I didn't need to sell. Like I didn't have a bill that I need paying or anything. But I always sold guns in the guise of, man, I've got all this money sitting in my safe doing nothing for me. Like I don't. The whole Marie Kondo thing, looking at it, this doesn't spark joy for me. Like I don't look at it and think, ooh, I want that, And for me, why have this hunk of metal sitting there that's hundreds of dollars? Like the cheapest guns is at least a couple $100. Like, and that adds up when you start looking at your safe. And for me, I could not mentally justify having guns that I did not care for just sit there and just, I don't believe that guns really appreciate and value that much. Like there are some exceptions. I get it. But as a general rule, you're not going to be getting rich just buying Glocks and letting them sit there for the, the appreciation, So I sold a bunch that way. What I do today is radically different. Today I use a local gun store, Larson Weapon Systems in, Spokane here, and he has a retail location, Access Manufacturing in Spokane, and he does a lot of the gun shows. So I can just consign it. I just give him the guns. He intakes them. There's a paper trail showing that it left my possession and entered his possession, and then he sells them wherever he sells them, either at the gun store or at the gun shows, and then he takes a cut for the commission and then pays me the rest. And it is the cleanest situation. I don't have to have any of those awkward conversations. I don't have to do any work. He does all the work and he gets the commission for it. The commission is worth it to me personally, just not to have to deal with it. But have you ever done it that way?
Yeah, I have. That the last ones I sold in Illinois, I did exactly that way. Did it on consignment with a local dealer, and big part of that, being in Illinois and seeing the way things are going in Illinois, I wanted that paper trail. I wanted it. They could look at it and see, oh, it left my name. It's in someone else's name, and that's the biggest concern I had doing it back when it was legal to do it private party and everything, was that there's no paper trail. Like, what if that guy flipped it the next day and then some bad guy got a hold of it, and then I didn't do anything wrong, but there'd be someone coming to ask me where this gun went after it left my hands. And that was my biggest concern, I think.
Well, and just having to keep those records, like the record keeping part of that, like if you do have that bill of sale and everything, like then you're tied to really have that data available for law enforcement, in theory, just to clear your name in order to make it where you don't have to feel guilty about it. Like that seems like a lot of work to do that too.
Yeah, for sure.
So the other question was like trade-in value. You see a lot of these posts on these forums are selling guns and they say $1,000 cash, $1,200 trade value. Like, to me, I just do not get that. Like, that just seems so off-putting to me. And it's like, okay, well, I'll just raise my price then $200 and now we're trading. And like, you get people that are trading for a long time there when guns were hard to get, like when ARs, the great AR scare, and you can get, $1,000 for the cheapest $400 AR these days, people would do that kind of stuff. And you're just like, well, okay, if you're trying to just get this inflated number versus the street price on these, and it seemed like, why even try to convolute it? Like, just tell me what you want for it, or not, like, and that's why trades, I have done some trades, and I think I've kind of regretted most of them. The only time I did a trade that is when you feel like you can't sell that gun otherwise. Like if it's like a highly specialized gun, or there's like a lot of modification to it. That's the problem. I had a lot of my guns were fully modified because I don't like to leave anything alone just because I get goofy with it. But those guns become increasingly hard to sell once you start modifying them, especially stippling. Back before stippling was accepted as much as it is now with actual real professional stipplers. I don't know if you remember that gun that I stippled at your house at one time when we tried to take finger grooves off of a Glock and then stippled it, and it looked like a dog chewed it, basically. That gun was not easy to sell. So I think I did trade that for something. But
no, that adds all kinds of value on Arms List. I've seen it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it just depends on how many Punisher logos you can get on it too. I think each one of those adds like $50, something like that.
That's a trick, yeah.
So trades, if a trade can work for you, great. I don't know. You always got to wonder why that person's getting rid of it too. But they're also probably asking why you're getting rid of yours too. So kind of one of those deals. Pricing, I've always priced my stuff aggressively just to get rid of it. I've never tried to get super top dollar for anything just because it's not worth the hassle to me. Like, yeah, you could sell it eventually for that price, but your opportunity cost, if you're actually trying to sell it to go buy something else that you want, like, you got to move. So I don't know. I think 70 to 80% of the retail price or street price is probably about right to me. If you're within 10 to 20% of what you can get it new on the street for, what's the point? Like, just pay a little bit more and get it right. But, so the pricing, and then it depends on if you're trying to do like these, collector items, obviously just kind of go with what the market goes with. But I think Gunbroker has it as well, right? Where you can do the previous completed auction pricing searches.
I was trying to do that the other day, and I don't know if they have that.
I think it's in the advanced thing, and you have to be signed in because I have looked at it before. So you could look for a completed auction for what you're selling to see what other Gunbroker people have done it for. And like if it sells for $100 on Gunbroker and you have to pay 10% of the fees or whatever the fees end up being, well, that means you can sell it for 10% less because you're going to net the same thing if you don't have to pay all the fees. So I kind of take that into account too. Like, yeah, you can get more on Gunbroker, but if you have to go through the hassle, pay all the fees, is it really worth it? Aaron was also asking about selling it as a package if you have optics and holsters and selling them separately or not. Boy, that's a good question. What have you done on that one?
I think I've done it where, well, with my XDM, I had a bunch of extra mags with it, and that was a package deal. And I think that's one of the reasons it sold a lot quick. I mean, it sold like within a day or something.
I've done it both ways. I don't know if I've necessarily made more money doing it as a package, though. I think depending on the item, you might be able to get more money for the accessories separately, but you then have to deal with a second buyer at that point, or maybe a third buyer, depending on how many accessories it is.
Well, like you said before, I think accessories are just so hard to sell separately.
True. And what I used to do is take like a big group shot with all of these accessories and just make a list. And like, I would meet people and, I'd go down to Spokane and be like, okay, I'm going to be at Spokane at 5:00 on this day. I'll bring everything with me, and then, you can browse. And I had people that would come there for one thing and then kind of fiddle through all the other stuff and take more. So it is a lot harder. And just the sheer number, like, it has to be worth something to make it worth the trip, like I'm not getting out of bed for $10, like, it's not worth the little nickels and dimes. But that's where the consignment to somebody that does gun shows, because they're already going and putting a bunch of crap on a table that people are walking by anyways. So if you can make that work, I think that's totally worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
For accessories. Now, and then like holsters, like if you have a carry gun and you have a holster for it, you might as well sell it with the gun, because like, what are the odds of you finding somebody that needs that one holster? But I've also done it where when I sold some of the cars, I had a car and the mags, and I had like 3 different holsters for it, like inside the waistband, outside the waistband, all the different options. And I sold those separately because it was perfect for somebody that just got the gun and had no holster. So like they can go from 0 holsters to every holster combination they would possibly need in one fell swoop. So it just kind of depends. I would always recommend, if you're going to post it online somewhere, I think the easiest thing to do is sell it or post it as a package and then say we'll separate if needed. And then that way, somebody can buy just the pieces of it if they want.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I would also not do it if the gun sold first. I could see somebody buying the accessories and leaving the gun, but the other way around makes it a lot tougher. Like, you don't want to sell the gun and, it's just that combination doesn't seem to really work. Photos, I think photos are what make or break an online ad.
Right. You don't want to be the guy with the big nasty toenails trying to sell the gun.
Yeah. There's a lot of those. You see a lot of like ones that look like they smeared Vaseline on their camera lens before they take the photo, or they're like 2 inches from the gun and they use the flash. So it just reflects off the bluing and it just makes all the colors washed out. Like these days, if you have a modern phone, you have the best camera possible for this stuff. Like, you don't need a fancy setup to take really good photos these days. Take the gun outside. Use natural light.
Lighting is everything.
And if you're going to be selling a lot of guns, buy a cheap light off of Amazon. You don't have to do the full photography lights like I did for just recently, but I bought a cheap like a LED ring light that just clipped over my cell phone. So it had a full ring of LEDs and you could control the intensity. And I would just literally, it was like a clothespin. And you just open it up, slip it right over the phone lens, and it would go right around the lenses. It was perfect. It was like 10, 15 bucks.
That's cool.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that stuff's cheap, and it really does make a difference. And I have had postings on that site that where people commented just saying that is how you do gun photos for an ad, because you don't want to spend all that time conversing with people, setting up a meeting date, and going there, and then they're like, oh, it's not what I expected. It's like, no, you should know exactly what you're getting because these photos were good enough that you have no doubt in your mind that you're going to buy this gun. Like, the worst thing in the world would be doing all that, and then they don't want to buy it.
Well, and to further that, make sure you disclose any imperfections, any blemishes, and try to photo those as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you don't want any surprises. And I think that the people would prefer that. Like, it would piss me off if I went there expecting 100% gun and I get somebody there and it's 80%. It's like, why did you not say something about this? Like, do you think I was going to forget? I always try to take photos of the boxes to show that I kept the boxes. Like, any accessory that's worth like more than a couple $100, I keep the box. Like, I have the space. If you absolutely don't have the space, I get it if you need to throw it away. But like Trijicon RMR boxes, those little plastic clamshell boxes, it doesn't take up any space, and it makes it look like you cared about what you owned, so you kept all the stuff. And it just makes it easier, especially if you're going to ship anything. Having the factory box is really ideal, so you can ship it without it getting damaged.
Totally, yeah.
So photos, that's a big one. Hiding the serial number. Where do you stand on hiding the serial number?
I don't know. Does it really matter?
I never thought it did.
I mean, everyone, apparently it matters because everyone on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist hides their license plate when they're selling a car.
Yeah, and I don't get that. Well,
I don't get it either.
And I don't know. See, I was from Illinois. The plates are your plates, not the car's plates. But out here, the plates stay with the car.
Really?
So it really doesn't matter out here. I thought that was weird too. Like, what if you get customized plates? I guess those are the exception. But yeah, like traditionally, they're just the license plates. They go with the vehicle.
That's weird.
That's why. Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? That's what I thought. I thought the exact same thing when I moved out here. But I really realized that once you see all these cars that have the screws holding license plates on are like ancient and decrepit because they never came off after they put them on. So it's just these rusted out screws holding these things on. But serial numbers, maybe it matters, and I'm just being naive. I don't know. But for me, I could give two craps about it. It doesn't matter to me. Shipping it, I'm all for shipping it. If somebody wants to pay me in a method that doesn't cost me a lot of money and I can verify the funds and everything before it goes, I'll happily ship it to an FFL there. I've done that multiple times, especially, shipping an FFL to FFL. The rules are a little different, so you don't always have to use overnight air, so it's cheaper, and everything. So not a big deal. Yeah, I think it's pretty fine. I still like consignment the best. I think that is, if you have somebody that you trust or a store that you trust that you can work with, I think that makes a lot of sense for people. And gun stores seem to like it too, because they get to put inventory out there that they didn't put any money into.
Yeah.
It's stocking their shelves without putting out any cash to buy the product in the first place. That makes a lot of money, or a lot of sense. I don't think it ever makes sense to pawn a gun per se. I can't. I've had a few offers when I brought guns in to just sell them to a pawn shop. I've never got a price that even seemed anywhere near fair. So, but I guess they assume that if you're coming to pawn it, you're probably desperate anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's no pawn shops in Illinois, right? I don't ever remember seeing pawn shops. Pawn shops up here are much more prevalent.
I think there is, isn't there?
It's like bail bondsmen. I don't think there's bail bonds in Illinois either.
Yeah, but I think there's pawn shops.
Huh.
Yeah,
Can you think
there
of one?
is. There is. I'm sure there is.
Have you ever been to one?
There was
Exactly.
There was one in DeKalb after
Do
you
know
left.
what a pawn shop is?
Yes.
I don't remember them being there when I was there. Maybe they are there now, but I thought it was such a weird world when I got out here, and I thought there's pawn shops everywhere, and you can go see guns, and you see all this junk that meth heads sell or steal from somewhere else and try to come sell it, and it was just a whole different world. It never even.
Yeah, there's several. Yeah, there's several around here, and it's not that populated of an area, and one of them recently actually went out of business. They had an auction because they were going out of business. I'm like, how does a pawn shop not make enough money to stay in business? Isn't it one of the most profitable types of businesses?
Yeah, as a percentage for sure. He's also asking about, how do you even determine if you should get rid of a gun? What is your criteria for getting rid of a gun?
Well, I don't ever want to sell a gun again if I don't have to. That's my criteria. But who knows? Maybe I'll start to buy guns like Zach and be like, what am I doing with all these? And I don't know.
Well, I just look at it as like, oh, well, what do you do with a gun that you don't do anything with?
Look at
I know
it.
you're a gun entrepreneur and rich and everything, and you can afford to spend
Right.
nothing for you. But I just look at it, and it pangs me every time I see just nothing. That I know I'm not going to do anything with it, but it's just sitting there. It's not costing me money because the money's already spent, obviously, but it's money I could be using for other guns that I might enjoy. So I don't know. I guess if you could keep some guns for friends and family to use if they come visit you, or in the apocalypse you need, a gun for them. But
or if these prehistoric beasts under the ground start attacking and sucking people under, I mean, you need all the guns you can handle, right?
So your Mosin's going to do that for you?
Everything. I need to get a Mosin with a bayonet.
For what? They are the goofiest guns. I worked with a guy that his kid had built one of those up with the Archangel stock and the scope mount and all this stuff. And it just, you ever see like a second grader draw a truck? That's what it looked like. It looked like you asked a second grader to try to draw a gun.
So it looks like the new Tesla truck.
Basically, yeah. It was strange. Like, okay, you spent all this money and you have kind of a gun, it's kind of it, but I don't know. I guess it's all in budgets and what you can afford, but, so you're not going to sell any guns. Do you want to buy guns, private party?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that.
I tend to say no for myself, just because I work in a place that I can get distributor pricing from everything, and I can't. Nobody can reach, nobody can match that price, because everybody seems to want to get full retail plus some on their guns, but they want to pay below distributor price for the guns they buy off you. So, to me, I've never really run across a deal that just made sense. But I guess I'm not opposed to it. I don't. There's too many bubbas out there, like especially like ARs and Glocks. Unless it's a true like virgin gun that you could tell they've not done anything to. Like, I don't want a gun that somebody did a trigger job on or something, because there's too many bad ones out there. Or the scourge on the gun selling community was people putting crayons in the roll marks of their guns. I could not stand that. Like, you'd see all these guns and they'd say custom color fill. It's like, no, not custom color fill. You took a crayon and you rubbed it into a roll mark and then you wiped the excess off. And like, to me, that's not, it's just so annoying. I did buy one Glock that way, and I did regret it, but it was white infill colors, but it was
that added like $100 to the value.
They probably assumed. I don't know. I don't know if that's still a thing, but you know, if you, I don't buy Bubba guns if you can help it, unless you really, really like it. But yeah, you have some links in here. Explain the links you put in.
Well, I threw some links in. I threw in, like, if you're a real new gun guy, anything like that, I threw in the basics of guns, beginner's guide to guns, and it covers everything from gun safety to handling to, some things we talked about. And then if you're really, which you should be, concerned about state laws and, all the way down into city and county levels, ATF publishes state laws and published ordinances for firearms. Currently, they have the 33 or 33rd edition out, and pretty simple. You click your state, and then you can read all the, nitty-gritty laws, everything pertaining to firearms. And so this might clear up some things for you, might have you maybe change how you plan on selling and buying, especially if you're in a state like California, Illinois, New York, or any of the other northeastern states.
Yeah,
but all the way down to like minimum ages. What about carry cards? Laws pertaining to that. It has details on pretty much everything. And then it also covers who can possess what types of firearms, what ages. You have to take all of that into account. One
thing I didn't even think about that as I just thought about it as you're talking there was 80 with the prevalence of 80% firearms these days. I don't think you can buy somebody else's 80% that's been finished. I think that once you make a gun, you can't sell it, I believe. Is that how you understand it too? I thought once it's unserialized, it's fine if you built it for yourself,
right?
And you possess it, but I don't believe you can sell it. So
you cannot buy an unserialized arm. As far as I know, you can, as a manufacturer of an 80%, you can add a serial number before you sell it, but I'm not sure that whole process or anything to do with that. You have to
pay for just to not buy one. And I remember before all the 80% were popular, there was a thing on Spokane Gun Trader where somebody had bought or had sold a AK-47 that they had built from a flat kit, and it wasn't serialized. And the buyer didn't know, for one, that it was an unserialized gun, and the ATF got involved, and the ATF made them return the gun, or made the seller take the gun back, actually, and said that you couldn't sell it at that point because it wasn't, a registered firearm or whatever. But
yeah, definitely make sure it has a serial number and make sure it hasn't been scratched off.
Yeah. Yeah, a guy at work was just talking about buying a Glock 27 at a gun store for $200, and I was like, did it actually have a serial number on it? Like, was it scratched off or changed in some way? Because that seems awfully low, but whatever. Yeah, it's 80%. Now that there's so many 80% pistols out there, just be smart about it. I would not personally. I would not buy somebody's 80%.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Absolutely not. I put in some. Another link, 10 best online gun stores. Maybe if you're looking to buy via the online route. And then, I don't know, I guess I wanted to mention, if you're selling a gun, be sure, Zach covered this a little bit, but be sure of the value, because there's a lot of gun stores, especially if you're like not really a gun guy, or, there's all kinds of stories about widows bringing in their firearms collection of their husband that passed away, and like they get like $500 for his whole collection, which is really worth like $50,000 or something. You hear stories like that all the time where people just get ripped off.
God, I don't know how people sleep at night doing that. That's crazy. And then on the flip side, just know that some of that stuff isn't going to add value. I just saw my buddy Dan brought in a what is it? A Winchester 64? That's the lever action, right? The pre 64 Winchesters, whatever, the lever action 3030s. There's, in the pre 64s are worth more than the post, I believe. I'm not a big aficionado, but it's the way I understand it. And this guy had one that he brought into the store, and it was beautifully engraved, like all this hand engraving all over it and everything. And it had his initials inside the engravings, and it detracted from the value. Like and they even said, I guess he brought it to a guy that knows those guns a lot, and said that even just the engraving could lower the value as well. So just what you think might be adding value may not actually be adding value.
Wow. And some of the older guns too, there's just not like hardly any info on it. If you go for the really antique stuff, and it's hard to pin a value on some of that stuff.
Yeah. If you got a classic like that, don't send it off for refinish or Cerakote or anything like that. You probably ruin whatever value it did have.
Yeah.
Did we thoroughly beat this horse yet?
I think so. Well, that's some of our experiences. But, again, we're not doctors on a podcast or lawyers, whatever. Check your local state laws. Check the show note the ATF published here. And, when in doubt, take it to an FFL, go through an FFL, a reputable FFL, and that can, really cover your butt on a lot of stuff. Yeah,
I think I would, if you have enough margin in the gun, I would actually offer to even pay the transfer fee and let it go through a store. Because if somebody's not willing to meet you at a gun store to do the paperwork, even if you pay the fee, that might be a sign that maybe they're not okay to have the gun. Now, a lot of people are they don't want their personal info out there. I get it as well. But if you want to cover yourself, that's about the only way you can really do it.
Yeah, for sure. Patriot Patch Company helps make this episode possible. Check out the new patches we have in stock. We have some Christmas patches. I know it's not even Thanksgiving, but we have some Christmas patches in stock. Ghost on the Post. We have tactical stocking, and we have some new Christmas themed ones coming out soon too. And sign up for our email newsletter at patriotpatch.co. Have some great Black Friday deals dropping next week. patriotpatch.co.
I actually put some of your T-shirts that you sell through Amazon on my Amazon Christmas list, hoping some family members happen to see it and purchase from me.
That's awesome. I mean, it's kind of sad you send your family members an Amazon list, but thank you.
No, I just put it on there hoping that they look, just for ideas.
Awesome. Check out hunterdesign.com if you're looking for graphic design, artwork, anything in the graphic realm. Ryan Cross, Hunter Design, he can handle it. He's the designer at Patriot Patch, and he can help you out with your website logo, hunterdesign.com. And Zach, where can people connect with you online?
Oh, Instagram, YouTube, and Range Hot. I need to start actually put some content in Range Hot. I made a list of all the articles I need to just kind of get buttoned up, and I'm going to probably do that when the doldrums of winter kick in and I don't do anything outside or shoot for a while. I'll just write about the time I did shoot at some point.
That's right. You've got your, 10 feet of driveway to clear, and I've got a half mile of driveway to clear.
Yeah, the difference is you don't have to leave your house. You guys are homebound. I have to leave in the morning and come back and do it after and clear all that 10 feet after a day of work.
Hey, I've got UPS, FedEx, and the mailman I have to look out for and make it so they can actually make it to the shop.
Fair enough.
All right, you can reach us at gunguyradio@gmail.com, and don't forget to check out all the other awesome shows here on the Firearms Radio Network. Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.